Welcome back to the Webby O'Neill channel. Thanks for joining us for today's video. We're going to take a look at Erik ten Hag's press conference. We want to know your thoughts and opinion on that one. There's plenty to discuss there, so get it in the chat and we will discuss some of your comments throughout the video. Also, later on in the video as well, stay tuned because we will preview the Burnley versus Manchester United game. And I must say, it's a vital 3 points after 3 losses on the bounce. So we want your thoughts and opinions, starting 11, score predictions, all that good stuff. And we'll get involved in the chat later on. But first of all, big story coming out today from the Manchester Evening News that there's leaks in the dressing room and there's a lot of players who are concerned with Erik ten Hag having favourites in that dressing room. So what's your first thoughts on that?
Listen, players there whinging. It's nothing new. They've done it before, telling tales. Listen, I remember David Beckham, stories coming out. Rooney, these players, they've all done it. You know what I mean? But when you're winning, listen, no one cares. No one cares. The stories coming out there that Erik ten Hag's got his favourites and all that, and he's pulling players and all that. Listen, that goes on. What it is, it's just that there's some players in that dressing room what are a bit weak and not strong.
I know
enough.
you're alluding to David Beckham and Wayne Rooney there, but they never put stories out against the manager.
Well, I don't know. It's Beckham, Rooney. Yeah, you would say. I think you would. You know, it's like when these stories come out, it's always about questioning your manager. Beckham did that many a time. Always questioned why he maybe got dropped or anything like that. Listen, Ferguson used to pull him. Didn't like his lifestyle and all that. Rooney there questioned United's what are we going to do in the future? He questioned the motivation of the club. He questioned Ferguson. So, you know, whenever you come out with a story, whenever these leaks come out, it's always about questioning the manager. These leaks just seem to be about Erik ten Hag having favourites in the dressing room and just singling out certain people. Well, Erik ten Hag certainly knows who he singles out, if that's the case. So he'll know where they come from if these leaks are true.
Yeah, for anyone out there who's not already read that MEN report from Samuel Lockhurst, it does say in the article, it says, dressing room sources have told the Manchester Evening News that some players believe ten Hag has his favourites in the squad who he is unprepared to single out for criticism, while others feel that they are routinely rounded on by the United manager. Now, it also does say further down in that article that although ten Hag has avoided publicly naming players who have erred, he has often highlighted the players' failure to follow the rules after defeats. So is this players who just can't accept criticism, then, who are then coming out with these stories? Because surely professional footballers, not just playing at Manchester United, should be able to accept criticism from the manager, and especially behind closed doors in a private environment in the changing room.
Well, in a changing room, you know, everything's off the table because especially after a defeat. But if a player keeps getting criticised, then instead of moaning about it, he really should be looking at himself. And I'm sure some of the players in the dressing room are looking at the same player thinking, well, why are you getting it? Well, there must be a reason why. In other words, you're not doing what you're told. You're not listening to the instructions. You're not carrying them out. So at the end of the day, the player himself must look at himself. Sometimes in the past, you looked at players when they whinged and they moaned and they leaked things to the press. They were edging for a way out and all that, and then getting better wages and things like that. But these players, they can whinge. It's just part of the world they live in. The thing is, they ain't going anywhere because no one's going to pay them the wages. It's just people who can't take criticism. At the end of the day, everybody should be able to take it. But unfortunately, some of these players aren't strong enough. But that's been the culture for a while inside this club.
Yeah, I will get on to whether you actually believe these leaks are true or not, or you just think it's the media, certain journalists just trying to pile more pressure on Erik ten Hag to divide himself between the players, even the fans against the manager, because let's face it, we are under a little bit of pressure with 3 defeats on the bounce, and maybe it's just the media trying to heap more pressure on him. But when he was asked in his press conference about these leaks, going back to that article, he said in the dressing room, staff, coaches, medical, here everyone is united. Here at Manchester United, you fight leaks. I know my players, and the only thing is to win games here every single game. So he's kind of putting his standards in there as well at the end.
Yeah, he's putting his standards in, and he's letting we're all together. Yeah. We're all willing to fight. And if there is some player there, it will be clear and obvious to every other player what's going on. if there is these leaks coming out from that player. I mean, it might not be the player, it might be his agent, it might be his family, it might be people like that. But with Erik ten Hag pinpointing how we're all together and that, it will clearly show in that dressing room who is unhappy. So there might be repercussions further down the line. But then again, this player might not even be able to make the team. He might just be a substitute, or he might be on there and then gets brought off and then just starts whinging. But hey, all this happens. All we need now is a few good wins, and you won't see stories like this. It won't matter one little bit if we start winning.
Yeah, of course, as fans as well, we've got to stick together and still back the manager. You know, you can still back the manager, fully support him 100%, but that doesn't mean then he's immune from criticism.
No.
If you think he's done something or certain choices you don't believe have been the best for Manchester United on the pitch or in the background. But for me, you know, it does worry me a little bit that there is players in there possibly still leaking stories. You know, this isn't something new at Manchester United, you've said. You know, this was happening quite a lot before Erik ten Hag come in last summer. And for me, going forward, like I think you said earlier on, Erik ten Hag must know if there is leaks going on, who these players are. And I've seen a lot on social media, people naming certain players, but for me, without having any actual facts, I don't subscribe to the fact of start naming players and pinpointing players, because it might not be one of the players. It could be a friend, a family member, someone from their own agency, an agent. It could even be the kit man, the tea lady, and someone at Carrington who's over the conversation and who's leaking it to the media. So I don't really want to start naming names and then pinpointing a player going against the player, you know, putting more pressure on certain players as well. So I'm sure Erik ten Hag, if there is something going on, he's the man in my eyes who will sort it out if that's happening.
Yeah, he'll sort it out if he can pinpoint the player, and I'm sure he'll be able to. I look at it there, how people are actually thinking it's this player or that player. I don't understand how that can happen, because at the end of the day, if you look at the season, how it's gone, virtually every player would have been criticised by the manager for not doing the job, because overall, you can't really say who's been playing that well to avoid criticism. You might just look at Delo, you might look at Aaron Wan-Bissaka. To me, them two players, I think they've played well. So you're looking at all the players here over the season up to now, right, who will have faced fierce criticism because they're not living up to Erik ten Hag's standards. But hey, like I say, a couple of wins, this will blow over. Erik ten Hag will deal with it, and I think we'll clearly see down the line who's out of this team.
The thing is, normally with leaks as well, it's always, let's face it, it's always a player who's not regularly starting for the club as well, who's in the background, the nose has been turned out of joint. So it's always a pinpointing players who are on the fringes of the team. And, you know, when you're looking at that and they're saying certain players are being favouted, do you look at any players who are currently starting or who have done under Erik ten Hag since he's been here and you think he's definitely a ten Hag favourite?
No, I think people do the job. People call them the favourite. Well, if they're the favourite, that means they're doing the job. It's as simple as that. And when you look at players leaking things and all that, it's either to move out. When I mentioned Beckham and Rooney before, Rooney, there was talk of him going to City, wanting to go to City. You talk of Beckham, he was looking at a move. So these rumours are always designed, these leaks, I mean, from players are always designed, right, for an end result. And that could just be what's going on here. Some players might not be up for the fight, or they've got other ideas further down the line, and they're now just edging and trying to cause something where they get moved out. But we'll see.
I don't think it'd be that. I think when players are leaking stories like they are doing now, like we've touched on many a times, and you'll know out there, a lot of these players who play for Manchester United, who aren't even starting, they won't get the contracts, they're on the wages anywhere else at the club. And for me, I think it's trying to destabilise, if there is leaks, and that is fact, to destabilise the manager and heap more pressure on him, that there's a division there between the players and the manager. And then they're obviously hoping some fans out there are that gullible enough to then pile more pressure onto Erik ten Hag if results continue the way they have been recently.
Well, if that was the case, they were trying to destabilise Erik ten Hag. If I was a player in that dressing room, I'd get that player, if I knew it was him doing the leaks, and just drag him round that dressing room by his throat 2, maybe 3 times and make it clear you're not wanted here. And to be honest with you, I'd do that if it was a Sunday morning game on a park pitch. If someone was trying to undermine the team, the club, the manager, you would physically get them. And it goes on. I'm not talking as though like this is me being like mad as an hatter. No, it does go on and has gone on in the past. So I think really somebody has to take charge in that dressing room if that is the case. And I think that's really what can happen. I'm not saying it will happen, but if it was me, that's what I would do. Try to undermine this football club and for your own personal ends, not on selfish.
Yeah, you've seen it loads of times at Chelsea in the past under the likes of John Terry, Peter Cech, Frank Lampard, all little rumours getting leaked out to the press. And then it was one manager after another. But at one point, that did actually bring him success at Chelsea, let's face it. But just going back into the chat, Gibbo says, the media are trying to turn us fans on Erik. But I'm sure at least 80% of the local fan base will back him as long as he doesn't keep playing the crap players. Like, keep bringing McTominay on. Now, obviously, he's got a preference on a certain player there, but do you get a feel as though, United fans that you speak to, do you get that feeling from a lot of the people that everyone's behind Erik ten Hag?
Listen, the most sensible football fans amongst us, right, understand that this is a big job, okay? And you have to back your manager. There has been a culture here going on for years behind the scenes with the management, with the players, and it has to change. But any sensible person will realise that this change is going to take time. This isn't a short-term fix. You will have malingerers, you will have people who doubt Ten Hag inside the club, but this will take time to root out where everyone works together, and that's what Erik ten Hag's doing. And it will take a few years. I think maybe 3 years, maybe longer. But any sensible football fan out there knows what's gone on in the past and knows this isn't a quick fix. To try and heap the pressure on Erik ten Hag because you lose a few games and you want him out is absolutely ridiculous. Because to come up with that, then you have to come up with, well, what's next? And you can't come up with what next because you've seen it that many times. He's changed the standards here, and it will take time. And it will take time to get people out of this club and to get working on the level Erik ten Hag wants. It's as simple as that. Any person who understands football knows this is a massive job and it's not an overnight fix.
No, I totally agree with you. And from what I've seen already, I didn't really know too much about Erik ten Hag before he come to Manchester United, to be perfectly honest with you. But from what I've seen already from him, from his coaching and from the actual manager he is, he's got that steel about him. When you was watching and listening to his press conference before, he was calm, he was relaxed, and that wasn't a manager who's just had 3 straight defeats. And for some managers out there, when they've experienced that, they've kind of like lost the plot a little bit in press conferences, and that can seep down to the players on the pitch as well. That if the manager isn't calm and composed and he's losing it a bit, the players can be like that as well and erratic on the football pitch. And for me, going forward, if we was to change manager, even at this point or at any point in the season, I don't think that's the main problem here. It's the culture, that what's in the dressing room with the players, the way they are and have been for a number of years now. And obviously the major problem is at the top. There's no structure there with football people in there where you're going to give the manager a big chance of challenging straight away when he comes in anyway. And you're totally right. I think it's going to take at least 3 to 5 years where you're going to see us then maybe challenging at the top, not winning titles, I mean just to challenge. Because I think these teams around us are that far in front now. Because they've got a structure behind them in place at the club where they can recruit certain players.
Yeah, well, the structure these clubs have got, they're that far above us, they will actually get further. So the struggle will continue and will get harder, but eventually Manchester United will be able to get back there. They'll have the resources, so they'll be able to challenge again, but it will take time. But Erik ten Hag, he's here, changing the standards, and it will take time. Like I said before, got to understand this, and if you don't understand it, then you don't really know or understand what Manchester United is and what it's gone through.
Yeah, just keeping on the players theme, he was also asked in his press conference about Jadon Sancho and the situation with him. And he was asked whether Jadon Sancho could leave in January. It depends on him, Ten Hag said. For the rest, we are preparing for Burnley, and that is our focus. Sancho will not be in the squad.
Yeah, well, he won't be here at Old Trafford. As soon as there's a chance to get him out, they'll get him out. It's as simple as that. This is one kid. He won't apologise. He won't buckle down. He hasn't buckled down. He's been consistently breaking the standards of what Ten Hag set. And one of them standards is your fitness and your training. And he's just not buckled down, hasn't buckled down throughout his career. He won't be here. First chance, he's out the door, and they'll just ship him out. Don't really matter what cost, what they sell him for or anything like that. They might even loan him, but hey, he's out the door. Don't even think about him being figuring in the future of Manchester United. He's gone.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Let us know what you think about Sancho, whether he'll still be here in the summer or next season, or do you think he'll be gone as soon as that January transfer window opens? Now, he was also asked about recruitment. We'd done a video, was it last week, on Ten Hag's agent, Kees Vos, and Kees Vos's agency, SEG. And he was asked this in his press conference about his agency being involved in transfers. And Ten Hag said there's no conflict of interest because we make good agreements on it from the start of Erik Ten Hag coming to Manchester United. We know how we cooperate in that manner. For player decisions, transfers, it's always 50-50. We both have a veto, the club and me.
Yeah, this story started, I think, at the beginning of the week, where the press come out and tried to suggest that staff weren't happy because of Erik Ten Hag and his agent. It looks as though they were trying to say that these people are buying the players and no one else is getting a look in. And I think that story has originated because people are losing out. Well, he's just addressed it there today and said, look, I've got a working relationship with John Murtough, right? Well, it's a happy relationship and it's 50-50. It's as simple as that. So if Erik wants to buy a player, John Murtough will say, right, okay. But then someone, will just turn around and say, well, there's no money for it, but they'll go. But it's a 50-50 agreement. So the only person what can be unhappy is John Murtough. Or if you put it the other way around, the only other person is Erik Ten Hag. But it's 50-50. This agreement was in place. That's how it's done. So any other stories about agents and people in the staff being unhappy, it's between them two. And that's how it should be. And Erik Ten Hag has come here and demanded that level of authority. And he's got it. He's got his hands on the transfers. What he hasn't got his hands on is the amount of money he can spend on these players. Yeah,
I'm still a little bit old school, me. I understand that what Erik Ten Hag said, that it's 50-50 decision between himself and the club. But, wasn't there a time when it was the managers who had the final say on what players come in and coming out the club? Well, go out and come into the club. And it seems to have all changed these days. So there will be little conflicts of interest in there between the likes of John Murtough, the scouting team, and Erik Ten Hag and his staff as well, whether that's Kees Vos's agency or his backroom staff. So for me, I'd be fully behind whatever Erik Ten Hag thinks Manchester United want, not what John Murtough wants and his cronies.
Listen, when Erik Ten Hag come in, you've got to remember what we said the other day, that a lot of these people inside this club are clinging onto the jobs, right? And they're not worried about where Man United end up or anything like that. So when Erik Ten Hag come in, I'm going to give you the job of transfers and everything. Well, what about me? Well, that's me out of a job. So I'm not having you, Erik Ten Hag, come into Manchester United. I'm going to make sure I keep my job. And that's the problem here at Manchester United. That's the problem of people inside that club. That's why we need a big clear out. That's why we need new owners so we can get them out. There's people inside there, like John Murtough, with this agreement, 50-50. And I'm old school as well, where the manager should be in charge of the transfers. Him and his scouting recruits and all that, they should be working together underneath the manager, right? Not alongside John Murtough, but that's the regime inside United. And John Murtough and all these other people in there have brought Erik Ten Hag in to make sure that they've still got a piece of the pie. They want their wages. They want their money. That's what it's about. And they know that when new owners come in, they're out of the door, right out of the door. But manager, John Murtough, it's not ideal for me, but that's the way it is. But he cleared it up.
That's how it looks like at most clubs now. Every club that's got a director of football, it seems to be they're the link between the actual top of the club and the manager then on what players and they want to go for and to sign off on, let's say. So for me, like I say, I'm old school. I'd rather just Erik ten Hag take care of all that with his scouting staff, give the instructions to them on what sort of players he wants them to scout, and then they take a look at it in the transfer windows, what players they should have and what players they shouldn't. I'm going to switch over a little bit now. Let's go on to the Burnley versus Manchester United game. Like we've said, it's been a little bit depressing, hasn't it, on the last few games, 3 straight losses. But I've got to be positive going into this one, surely against Burnley, that the 3 points will be there after at full time.
Yeah, you've got to be positive. I just look at the focal point, really, in the team, and the focal point has to be Højlund. He's had a couple of outings now, played over there in Munich, played against Brighton so many minutes. I think the kid looks fast, and, I know he's going to be up there on his own. That's how it is. Now, the kid has got some running stats there. I mean, he does 100 metres in under 11 seconds. Right. That was in the old days, right? But, he has to be up there. He's got to be the focal point, and the team's got to work towards him. I really can't see, from the team what started against Bayern Munich, really much change from that team. I think maybe one, if any injuries come along, we'll discuss them in a minute. But I think that he'll stick to that starting, because at the end of the day, you have to look at the start of that game for 27 minutes. United looked pretty comfortable, and then it all just went wrong. We've seen that before. But I think that's what he'll start with. He'll expect more from them players. He'll expect more from the wingers, certainly from the wingers, and he'll expect more commitment and more fight. And that's the one thing we're all going to look for. But to me, the focal point about the Burnley game will be Højlund.
Yeah, you're expecting, he was asked about Mason Mount, Raphael Varane and Amrabat, and it does look like they're near enough close to actually getting a start in one of the games, maybe Burnley this week, and I'm hoping we see Varane and Mason Mount at least.
I'm not too sure. I think he's going to decide tomorrow on Friday, see how they are, but it's not really a strenuous training session on a Friday. I think he'll just look at him. I don't think any of them injuries, those players what are injured, will get a start. I think they've got a chance of being on the bench. I think they've also got a chance, depending on the score and how the game's going, coming on at certain time. I think what he'll do with these injuries, these injured players, is try and give some of them 15, 20 minutes minimum, and then look at the Crystal Palace game on Tuesday. And see the reaction. And really, when you look back at football and all that, players coming back from injury, you can't rush these players in. And this game is going to be frantic. United have to pile it on, and they have to get the goals. So there's no hiding place. And for these players what have suffered injuries, they'll need to be brought in nice and gentle. We don't want to mess it up. We've got enough injuries, and we don't want them got, especially with Varane. I mean, Varane there, he just needs to be brought in gently, do you know what I mean? So these players, no, I can't see a full game from any of them, to be honest.
Yeah, you're looking at that Bayern Munich game, there's been a lot said about certain players with the performance in terms of running, tracking back. Do you see any changes in the wide areas, to try and combat that when, we've seen teams recently just running through our midfield?
No, I think he'll stick with Pellistri. I think he'll stick with Rashford. I want more from Rashford, that's without a shadow of a doubt. The old signs seem to be creeping in on Rashford, not running back, not tracking back. So I need to see an improvement in that. Pellistri there, put in good work. Difficult game for him to be in. But then I think he just lost his legs at the end of it, where he couldn't even chase back. But no, I expect virtually the same team, but them three up front. You've got to also look at Martial here. When he did come on, he seemed to be like, I don't know, it was like he had a fire put underneath him. The kid was just moving. He was just like running all over the place. So you just don't know here with Anthony Martial. He might have an impact on the game if he comes off the bench.
Rashford, though, I want to concentrate on Rashford because he's been taking pelters for a while now, and especially after that Bayern Munich game. And, for his running stats, tracking back. Do you think, with the way Rashford plays, he's clearly at his best when Manchester United are on the counter-attack? He's clearly our biggest threat going forward in scoring goals as well in this Manchester United team. Do you think he's got different instructions to any of the other players in terms of defending? You know, you look at Anthony, who normally plays on the right-hand side, you can see a totally big difference in them two, how they get back, get in a defensive position, also track players going back. So do you think Erik ten Hag has got different instructions for Rashford? I'm not like basically trying to back him here or, you know...
attack him.
Attack him or either way. You know, for his performances, because some of it he needs to put more into it. But do you think he's got different instructions from other players into maybe stay a little bit further up to be that out ball? So when the ball does get turned over, when we're under pressure, we've got that out ball up there to spring a counter attack. I don't know, because you're looking after games here. You know, certain players get criticised straight away from the journalists. And a lot of the time, it's the elephant in the room that Marcus Rashford hasn't been putting in the work rate, tracking back a number of times now. But the journalists never ask that question. And I don't know why.
I look at what Erik ten Hag says. He says, you know, it doesn't start from the back. We defend together. We attack together. But you're right, Marcus Rashford. Is he doing enough tracking back? And is that an instruction? I actually don't think it's an instruction. If you look at last year, without Marcus Rashford, we'd have got no goals. So at the start of this season, we've not really had a centre forward, anyone up there, until Højlund's just come. So I think you might see a difference now. I agree that Rashford hasn't been tracking back, has been poor in that department, but I think it's going to have to change, I think, because what you've got Højlund up there, he's the man, he's the sprinter, he's the man to chase, and he's the target man. So Rashford, really, and he has escaped criticism. I've got to agree with that from the media. It is the elephant in the room. He doesn't come back. All United fans, I think, I've seen comments galore time after time. We've done a video that everyone on here is criticising Marcus Rashford for not working back. But I don't believe it's an actual instruction. I think what it is, it's a carry-on over from last year. And we've not got the right...
But it's a problem then for me. If you're telling me, it's just an opinion, both of ours, let us know your opinion as well. But if Marcus Rashford is going against the instructions of the manager then, right, in terms of when the team are defending, because you defend as a team, you attack as a team, and that's Erik ten Hag's philosophy, and he's not putting it in. Why is Marcus Rashford not getting dropped? Just like other players are getting dropped through poor performances and not carrying out instructions of the manager.
I agree with you. Why isn't he getting dropped? Well, I look at it this way, because we couldn't drop him. We didn't have a centre forward. He had to play centre forward. He had to play out on the wing. There was no option. But I also, in Erik ten Hag, he was under, I say, pressure. He couldn't drop him if he wanted to, because we needed him out there. And maybe that was some of the lacklustre looks and the way he has been strolling about on the pitch, as if to say he's untouchable. But Marcus Rashford must realise that we have a centre forward now who is the target man, who is the man up there, who will work up there. And he now will have a different role to play, Rashford. And he has to get involved in helping the fullbacks, in helping the midfield. And if he doesn't, we've got an alternative in Garnacho. And Garnacho, if he is given the opportunity, will have to do them instructions. The team, the way it's set up, the way it's going to work, is now about to change, because you're going to see a centre forward who will regularly be playing. And if he doesn't play regular, he gets dropped because we're saying we're trying other players in, say, a Carabao Cup game and that, then you'll have Anthony Martial, who I think at the moment, with the way I've seen him, will want to do the job. So the tactics and what he's expecting from certain players will change because of the formation. The formation and the way people work throughout the 90 minutes is going to be different, because we have now got somebody straight up top, down the middle, who is a bit of a beast. He's a big lad, but he has got the energy. And I said before, he can do the 100 metres in under 11 seconds. This kid will run all day. He's not quite reached top fitness yet. He might get there in the next week or two, but Rashford's game will have to change because of the role and the duties which will be imposed on him now by Erik ten Hag. And he's been able to sort of get away with it because there was no alternative. It's like taking your goalkeeper out.
I know, but
that's how I see it.
You're saying, but this isn't something that's just happened this season with
No,
Marcus Rashford,
it's not.
okay, where
No, I agree.
he's not put the hard yards in getting back and helping out his fullback.
I agree.
And it's gone on for a number of months, a number of years really with him. So, like I say, Marcus Rashford is at his best when Manchester United are counter-attacking. So has he got different instructions to, let's say, Anthony on the right-hand side, where he is actually being told, like, under certain situations United are put under defensively, you've got a certain position to take up. So you're the out ball. Don't matter what level of football you play at, Sunday League, Saturday League, whatever. If you're getting hammered by a better team who are coming at you, it's always better to have an out ball up further up the field, whether that's centre or on the left-hand side or right-hand side, because all you're going to end up doing is trying to play out, get tackled, you're under pressure again, or you're going to hoof it up the pitch into an area with no one there, and the pressure keeps coming back. You need that out ball, surely. Now, I'm not sticking up for him because some of his performances I've given him as well because he's just not put it in. What annoys me more than anything is Rashford, and there's others there as well in that squad, when they're going for 50-50s, you're hoping, you're praying, but in the back of your mind, you just know they're not going to win that 50-50. And that's the thing that gripes me a little bit more than him tracking back, because I'm not fully aware of the facts of the instructions Ten Hag's actually giving him.
No, well, we can only have a discussion on what we see and only have an opinion on what we see. Yes, last year before, this criticism, but then again, I think you could criticise all players, but it seems to be a recurring theme with Marcus Rashford. The one constant criticism of him is his tracking back. Yes, I'm not happy with it, but at the end of the day, the team is going to change. And the only people really, I think, what can get to this is really the media. But the media are afraid to come out with any criticism on Marcus Rashford, and we all know why. Because of the things he's done in lockdown with the kids, everything else like that, and other things. So at the end of the day, the media need to ask when they get the opportunity about Marcus Rashford, why is this situation? And all we can do, right, is speculate, have an opinion, and really sometimes have a gripe as fans, because that's really what we are. We're fans. We can see what's going on. We're not happy with it, but what it is, I do believe with what I'm looking at, things will change, tactics will change in positions of players and what the instructions are. But that's down to Erik Ten Hag, and I think we will see in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I just think it could possibly be the case. It's only an opinion because, you look at the way Marcus Rashford plays, like we've just mentioned throughout this video. You've got our two centre midfielders that recently have been Eriksen and Casemiro. Have they really got the pace and the legs to cover the void what Marcus Rashford leaves in not defending going back towards our goal? I don't think they have anymore. So
no, they haven't.
So it's been highlighted even more in our recent games. Opposition teams just steamrolling our midfield. Now, if you look at the summer transfer business he's done, he's got Mason Mount in energy, legs, can press high up the pitch, can get back as well. Sofian Amrabat can do the exact same thing, probably even with more intensity for a full 90 minutes. So maybe there's different instructions for Marcus Rashford, and these players like Mason Mount and Amrabat can actually fill that void, what Marcus Rashford doesn't do, because Erik Ten Hag sees him as more of a threat going forward. And like we've seen last season, more often than not, it was our main player, our big player last season, getting goals.
Yeah, but what you've just highlighted it there yourself. Listen, we won't know about the instructions. We won't know until players come into this team. Yeah. Like you've just said, Mason Mount, Amrabat, things will change, and then we'll know. Yeah. And then when you've got players like that, and then when he tweaks with the starting formation, that's when we'll know. So like I said, and I've said it for the last couple of weeks now, I don't see you'll actually see a change with this team and how it performs until near enough Christmas, because I think with the amount of injuries we've got and everything, that's when I see, really, if they're all back then, that's when you'll see what Erik Ten Hag is demanding from individuals like Marcus Rashford for more work rate.
I think it's shown anyway since Anthony's not been available how much we miss him on that right-hand side defensively as well, helping out his teammates and being that extra body when's needed to help out the likes of Wan-Bissaka, Dalot, and even the midfield players. Yeah, he's been not on top form. He's been poor some games going forward, holding on to the ball too much, slowing the actual game down when we need to be at a pace in the final third to try and create attacks, goals. But for me, I think he's been a big miss, and hopefully the haters and the critics out there of Anthony have seen that as well, because he does give something to this team.
I think when you mention Anthony out there on the right wing, right, I think what we miss is not just Anthony, it's Aaron Wan-Bissaka, because them two work well together. And that has just come at the same time with Anthony being out. We all know why. Aaron Wan-Bissaka getting the injury. That there is going to be a disruption going on further down the line, and that partnership was working well. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, the most improved player under Erik ten Hag. So that is a bit of a blow, do you know what I mean? And then obviously we can see what's going on the left, and we can see what's going on the pitch. The work rate's not good enough, and it has to improve. But that's when players come back. Our lights.
Yeah, our lights have just actually gone out. I don't know if it's a ghost or one of us forgot to put them on charge for long enough. I'll throw that finger at me for now. But yeah, I'm just going to hang on just for a little bit, just in case the camera can pick that up, what we're losing on light. And what I say was score predictions going into this game.
Score predictions, I'm actually going for 2-0. I think the focus, like I said at the beginning, will be on Højlund, will be all about goals. And I think 2-0, good enough. They've got 1 point. Tough for them this year for Burnley. But really, no matter what's going on, any noise around there, 2-0. But I'll tell you something, if we don't win, the noise around this club will just be deafening.
Yeah, we've got to win the game. It's as simple as that. We need the 3 points after 3 defeats in a row. We need them 3 points. I can't even look at the league table at the moment, to be honest with you. I don't even know where we're sitting. I know it's in the bottom half of the table, but I just can't look. We need the 3 points, and we need to get back on track and get some momentum going up to Christmas time, especially in that Champions League as well. Want Champions League football in the second half of the season.
One game at a time.
I'm going to wrap it up there, because I don't know if you can see us or not. The lights have just blew out. But thanks for joining us, everyone. Please smash a like on the video if you've enjoyed it. Much appreciated you joining us all the time. Some great comments in there as well today. Much appreciated. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, and we will be back tomorrow. We're going to do a build-up to the Burnley versus Manchester United game. So if you are available and you're free, come and join us roughly about 6:45, and we'll do 45 minutes, an hour, just talking about the team news and anything else you want to talk about before the game starts. So like I say, hopefully see you all there. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you.